Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our exclusive webinar series on OKR for creating high performance culture. This is our episode 1. To begin the webinar, let me start by introducing uExcelerate. We are a SaaS platform enabling organizations to scale and build a sustainable coaching culture, fostering personalized leadership development for the whole self and the whole system. Our product offerings include Appraise, that's a coaching culture maturity model, wherein we help the organizations discover its stages of coaching culture maturity model based on our 7C framework. Discover is our coaching marketplace that connects employees to a pool of diverse, experienced, and certified external coaches for specific requirements in the organization. Symphony is our digital coaching platform, wherein you can launch on-demand, one-on-one, or group coaching engagement program by onboarding the leaders as internal coaches and employees as coachees. PACE are the coaching programs that we have in the area of leadership development, diversity, equity, inclusion, mental well-being, high performance acceleration, and leader as a coach program. Altogether, we offer building coaching culture, and we offer unified solutions to the organization to build coaching culture. Before we begin the session, a little bit of housekeeping. This is a recorded session and you will receive the recording after the event. The event will last for 60 minutes and you can post your questions in the chat box and the speakers will be happy to answer your questions in the last 15 minutes. To begin with the session, let me start by introducing our first speaker, who is Vikas Bejal. He is a leadership and executive coach who comes with a diverse experience of 33 years. He has led large HR and cross-functional teams, conceptualized and implemented talent management, leadership and organization development and cultural transformation initiatives at country and global level. After a diverse corporate experience, he started his career as a coach and has been serving large organizations and scaling up their businesses. His current engagements include consulting with clients across industry sectors in the area of O&D, leadership and learning, leadership development and learning, and HR advisory services. He is member of advisory board of NIIT Foundation, and he's a certified Hogan and SHL OPQ assessor. I welcome you, Vikas. Our second speaker of the day is Sunny Arora, who is the growth and revenue professional. He will be joining us from Humanus and he'll be representing Humanus. And he is a professional revenue professional with 15 years of experience in the field of SaaS and platform marketing and holds a track record of building and scaling global revenue-driven organization, experienced in P&L management. He is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad with over a decade experience in the HR tech space. He is representing Humanus, which is an OKR performance and growth acceleration platform built for businesses of all sizes across the globe. The goal of Humanus is to foster organizational performances through objective and key results. So today, Sunny will walk us through the OKR platform that Humanus offers. So without waiting much, let me welcome Vikas and hand it over the webinar and will request to take it forward from here. Vikas, I welcome you. Please take the session forward from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Kanika, for setting the context of today and also the introduction. Thank you, uExcelerate, for the opportunity, and my greetings to everyone who is there on this webinar right now, registered here on this platform or on the live LinkedIn streaming. It's a great opportunity to talk about a concept of OKR. To start with, I'm not sure how much of us know about it. We intend to make it fairly an interactive session with the Q&A built in towards the end of the session. So I'll take the first few minutes to talk about the concept of OKR, how it can be used by organizations effectively to implement their strategies. And then Sunny shares with you a very interesting platform which enables you to measure as well as monitor the OKRs in the organization. To start with, let's start with a poll, just to get an understanding of what is our own current readiness. I just want to take a dipstick of the audience right now. So Kanika, if you can do the first poll, please.
Yes.
So it's a simple poll. How familiar are you with the concept of OKR? If you have used it, are you aware of the tool or you're not, or maybe you've heard about it? Okay, we already have about, great. Kanika, do you want to share it? I think we have got all the answers. Yeah, so I think almost 50% of the audience have heard about it, but not enough information. We do have few who have actually used it and implemented, so it would be good to know and understand about your own experiences. And then there are, of course, a mixed one, few people not aware of the tool. So I think we have a fair mix. So it's going to be interesting. Great. So let me start with the journey of OKR. And so overall, if you look at it, OKR as a concept, as a tool, it's not a new concept, new tool. But yes, in the recent times, in the last few years, it perhaps has got more talked about it, and more visibility and more marketing, and more companies have started adopting it. But it started way back in the 1970s by Andy Grove, who was heading Intel at that point in time. And the whole objective of Intel at that point in time was, how do I come up with the chips much faster and much more capability-wise in terms of processing capacity should be high. And he used OKR as a tool, as a concept during one of these projects, one of the transformational journeys in Intel. It continued with Intel in the 70s and the 80s until Google picked it up, and John, who was working with Google, and Google was going through a transformation at that point in time in the late 90s when he introduced this concept of OKR. And that's actually in a way, it gets talked about as one of the key success enablers at Google. Over the next 20 years, Google continued to be successful in the 2000s and even now with their innovation, with the speed to response to the market, and also understanding consumer needs and adapting itself, bringing in a whole lot of innovation. Over a period of time, in a way, it has become an industry best practice with many of the organizations. When you look at from LinkedIn, Google already was there, Intel was there, Spotify, and many more organizations have adopted or used OKR as a tool. Yes, you would find a lot of them being technology-based organization, and some of the answers you will find why perhaps in my subsequent slides. But really speaking, maybe that's the industry which was taking big leaps when it came to innovation, in product innovation, as well as around the customer experience. And OKR became an extremely effective tool versus any other strategy execution tool which were available at that point in time. So what's OKR after all? And look at it, an OKR is actually could be called a critical thinking framework. Now, some words could be used interchangeably, from strategy, execution, to critical thinking, or to goal setting methodology. But it is one of those tools which can do some as well as all of them. More importantly, it helps the companies and of course the functions within the companies and individuals to align themselves, not just to the larger goal, but also align themselves horizontally, functionally, and work collaboratively. Sort of the big thing what OKR does is promote a culture of collaboration. So it's not just about achieving results, but it is also importantly how you achieve those results, because it encourages collaboration. So it's not just about I win, but it's also about we win. And that's the philosophy. And that's the encouragement that OKR provides. It's quite flexible if you look at it from its implementation, and we'll talk again about it, but it supports the goal and the vision, both in the short term as well as in the long term. More specifically, in the short term, it provides a whole lot of flexibility to the organizations to adapt to any changing business environment and changing business scenario. For example, we recently, last couple of years, organizations struggled with COVID, which meant there were a whole lot of unforeseen circumstances. You can't even anticipate what's going to happen 6 months from now, 3 months from now, or a month from now. OKR is a tool. When you realize that, when you implement it, it is far more flexible and allows you to change the goalpost and your key initiatives that you are actually going to drive, even on a monthly basis, while keeping your vision intact. Unlike perhaps other tools that we are quite familiar with and we have been implementing. It follows a quarterly cycle and not an annual one. And that is one of the reasons why this flexibility comes in. So in a year, in a way, you get 4 chances to relook at your strategy, relook at your goals, relook at your vision, unlike maybe an annual KPI, which starts at the beginning of the year, ends at the end of the performance year. It does very clearly, not just talks about what, but also about the how. Now, this is one of the experiences I'm sure as HR people, all of us have, and also as line managers. Many a times our intent is there. Our aspiration is there. Ambition is there. But how am I going to reach there is not always so clear. And OKR helps us with that. So it's not just a goal, but it's also a way to achieving it. And you actually have measures for everything. You can measure anything and everything using an OKR on your initiatives. The progress, you do monitor on 100%, it can be 10 point, but typically we use a percentage scale on this, and it's never tied to performance review or to compensation. So which means there is no threat for not achieving it. So I am not defensive as an employee, as an individual, as a department, as a function. I'm not so worried about what if I fail. Is it going to impact my annual rating? Is it going to impact my annual compensation increase? Is it going to impact my promotion increases? So I'm far more open to take risks and try something new. So if for an example, if you just look at it, if a company's direction is to increase revenue per customer, there are many options. Or actually, so you have get me new customers, which is perhaps what the sales team would do, convert more customers, that again the sales team would do, or sell more to existing customers. Now, if you really look at it, it's not just a sales team who would do that job. Or maybe if I need to sell more to the existing customers, perhaps maybe I need more products. I know I need more services. So which means somewhere for the sales success is the product team, which also plays a big role. If I need to generate more leads for conversion or increasing my funnel, is the marketing team who can actually do that. And typically, if you look at it in any consumer-driven organization, we always have those loyalty club members whom you can sell more. Who builds those offerings? It's actually the marketing team which supports the sales team. So in a way, if you look at it, the objectives in the organization, the goals in the organization are typically should be co-owned. However, the actions are not always co-owned. And that's the beauty of OKR because it brings all of them together as a function. So what's so special about it? It measures the right things. So it measures what matters and leaves aside the not so important aspects. It encourages ambition. It encourages hard goals. So you're not actually building OKRs to meet what is obvious, which in any case you have to meet, which is, for example, a 5% growth in a year is not what you're looking for through an OKR. Or perhaps you're looking for a 25% growth and you're thinking way beyond what you have thought so far and trying to say, how do I break those boundaries? And that's what it does, OKR does. Alignment is very, very systemized. Like I talked about, it brings people together. In an OKR, we'll see that. And transparency, of course, comes in. So there is nothing which is hidden, which is not available as information because everything happens in the public. Collaboration, of course, will break the silos, and there is a greater accountability to the managers, because managers then can monitor initiatives and actions rather than just worrying about the outcomes. In a way, my entire conversation with my team changes to say that, why haven't you achieved the outcome, or what prevents you from achieving the outcome? From there, the entire conversation changes, saying, we have this initiative to achieve in the 2 months time, or in next 30 days time. How can I help you? How can we work together? How do I arrange resources for you, be a resource manager to make sure that we achieve those initiatives? Because it's also my skin in the game. And naturally with that, the engagement, the entire employee engagement and the purpose and the performance improves. We know that for a fact that when we conduct employee engagement surveys and we look at motivation, what motivates me? Beyond the money, beyond the position, beyond the culture, it's about empowerment. Is the organization utilizing all my skills? Is the organization utilizing my abilities, my ambition, my aspiration? Is it giving me space to experiment, maybe fail, but learn something out of it? In the process, innovate, moving out of the traditional ways of working. And that's what encourages me to work in an organization. It provides me that environment. So what it does definitely is team orientation. You have goals or improvement areas per quarter. So you're not even looking for a 12-month time frame. You're actually looking at over 90 days. What are 2 things I need to change or I need to do differently? And that's what your focus is. If you really look at it, 3 months is a good enough time to deliver on some key outcomes. Obviously, you don't go beyond the realistic boundaries, something which is achievable, and you evaluate it to say, is it actually going to work or not work? Like I said, it gives you 4 chances during the year. So it gives you enough flexibility to relook at your plans, to go back, revisit. Suddenly, for example, there are supply chain issues from a particular country. You stop from there, the operations. You need to find an alternative. Naturally, some of the goals may get impacted, some of the actions may get impacted. So it gives you that flexibility to modify your OKR and then live on and move on. Importantly, OKR drives ownership. So it's no longer the CEO's responsibility or head of the function's responsibility, but the responsibility cascades down to individuals. An individual becomes an owner for a given initiative. So it is possible that as an HR head or as a sales head, I have an OKR, which may have required me to do 5 different initiatives to achieve the goal. However, not all those 5 initiatives will be taken by me. Some of those initiatives could be taken by another function. For example, it can even be technology function. It could also be HR. It could also be finance. However, what it means then is that even the finance person who owns that initiative is actively working to contribute towards my success. That's the beauty of it. So without even telling people, saying you need to support another person, you actually build initiative by giving the ownership of the initiative to another person who takes on, makes his plan, strives towards it. And that's the way alignment as well as the ownership gets built in the organization. The transparency comes in because every person who is responsible for that particular OKR or that particular objective comes together to review all the initiatives and where we are. So it is no longer hidden saying it's a one-on-one meeting with the CEO, between the CEO and the department head. It doesn't work like that. If the CEO has to review an OKR of a department head, all the stakeholders who are responsible for different initiatives within that objective are sitting there with the CEO and are accountable for it. So it gives absolute transparency. There are no hidden budgets. There are no stretch budgets. There is no buffer in budgets when it comes to OKR. Something that typically, many at times, in organization, we are used to it. So what is an OKR? If you look at it, essentially, OKR is about objective and KR. KR is key results. So objective is, what's my destination? I need to go to Sydney. That's my destination. How's my journey going to be? Am I going to take a flight? Am I actually going to go through a cruise ship? Am I going to have a couple of stopovers? By when will I reach? Those are my KRs or my key results, the journey and the milestones. So what I want to achieve are typically my ambition or my intent. It normally may not have all the quantified numbers. I might say, I want to be the number one in customer experience in a given territory or in a given vertical in the next 90 days time. Or I may want to say, I want to acquire 100,000 customers in the next 90 days, where perhaps my run rate so far has been 70,000. And my budget could be just 80,000. But I'm willing to put that at stake and say, I want to actually acquire 100,000 customers in the next 90 days. But that's my aspiration and my ambition. And that's my intent. And it's more directional, but it's quite unambiguous. It's very simply written, but it needs to be understood quite well. So, for example, so what do I get with that? So 100,000 customers can give me a revenue of 20 million or can give me a revenue of 2 million, any of those numbers. So it's more action oriented. It's delight customers, increase presence, encourage customers. So it's more action. So intent is followed by an action. And that's how you phrase typically the objective. Rather than saying, I want to be the number one. Fine. But by doing what? So the objective communicates how am I going to achieve that. But KR breaks it down into very specific actions. And we understand about the SMART goals. Not going to talk more about it, but you can measure them quantity, quality, or in terms of time. There has to be an evidence of completion, which means every KR has to have what is the outcome expected and by when. These are again not, you don't use intents like I will consult, I will seek help, I will analyze, I will participate. Participating, analyzing, helping does not lead to anything. So important thing is, what will I do? I will achieve something. I will close something. I will implement something by so and so date. And that's the way you would think and write those KRs. So these are two key components, objective and the KR. Let's see a few examples of it. For example, I'm taking the example of typically of us as that we are used to again. Ensure 1,500 people have at least 2 certifications. Let's assume it's a technical certification. You want them to learn the latest Microsoft certifications or any such certification you want to do by say March, by end of March. And that's what you want to do. And obviously, why it is important is maybe because it's part of your strategy. You can build them, build the clients, you have more available resources, your productivity could be much higher. Now, what we can do is, how do I reach out to 1,500 employees? It may not be possible through a classroom, but I may say I will deploy an online platform by January 15, 2023. My second key area could be, I will assign a learning plan to every employee by January of 20th, 2023. So I've done a platform, I've assigned a learning plan. My next thing is to ensure that people complete their courses within 45 days once the course has been assigned. I need to work backwards because I need 1,500 people certified by end of March. And what's a typical lead time to complete a particular certification? It would be 45 days. And finally, I need certified people, which means I need to have an assessment method and a certification method on the platform so that by the time people start, the first enrollments or first completion of the courses are happening maybe around 10th of February or 15th of February, by then my assessment should be ready. And that's the way, this is just an example of a typical HR or training example I've taken. Let's take another example is if I have to increase my revenue by 20% by end of third quarter of 2022, which is the October to December, if you were to assume that as a cycle. What do I do? One of my KR could be, I acquire 50 new customers with an average ticket size of $100,000. That could be one. My other KPI could be increase marketing leads by 20% by reaching to new countries. Maybe those countries I'm not there, my presence is not there, but I can actually go to new countries, new territories, or new states, whichever way you want to look at it. My third could be that I focus on my existing customers and I focus on getting at least $2 million from 15 existing customers. So I go back to my customers and someone needs to do that job and knock the doors and say, what more can I sell to them? Or finally, it could also be that I want to appoint 10 new channel partners in Middle East and Africa by end of October. Now, why end of October? To say that maybe I need at least 60 days time to generate new orders. That's my sales cycle maybe. Unless I close those channel partners by end of October, I will not be able to convert those leads by end of December. And hence I may fall short. And that's the thinking and analysis and conversations that are required when you set up these KRs, which need to be more realistic. So then what's the difference between a KPI and an OKR? Is it just yet another tool? HR came up with another new jargon. But actually, if you look at it, the difference is typically the KPIs are set based on historical performance. Last year, we did $100 million. Market is growing at 5%. Maybe I'm ambitious. I may want to grow at 6%, or maybe I want to grow at 7%. While the OKR target will not be a 7% or 8% growth, I would challenge and I would say, why not 15%? So it's more aspirational and mission driven rather than historical performance. KPIs are aligned to annual budgets, and that's where you build in buffer. The seniors build in a 3% buffer so that even if the juniors are unable to achieve, at least he achieves his goals and earns his incentive. However, OKRs are aspirational. They are not connected to budgets. And hence, there is no threat. There are no buffers. So you can do much more, but they are on a quarterly basis, not annual. It becomes KPI are key inputs for whether appraisal, whether incentives and everything, while OKR are not. Importantly, most of the KPIs are lag indicators, while most of the OKR are lead indicators. You know, if a particular initiative is not completed 100% on time, the chances of your overall objective to be met, you are actually could be at risk. So you are actually tracking those lead indicators in terms of the initiatives which are there to meet that overall objective. And that's the big difference between OKR and KPI. Typically, with a lag indicator, your response action can only be at a later stage. It's more recovery. While in case of lead indicators, you are far more proactive to do that. And of course, because it is linked with incentives and appraisal and everything, normally KPIs, people could be very reluctant to take on stretched KPIs. So it's mostly the what's, while OKR is both a combination of what and how. So really speaking, if you look at it, and in OKR, if I set up a stretched goal of even say 20% growth or 25% growth, where otherwise I was growing at 5 or 7%, trust me, once you set up that OKR, chances are, even if you do an 80% achievement on those goals, you would have done far better than your normal KPIs. And that's where, that's the stretch that OKR builds in. Sometimes organizations use OKR also differently to meet their normal KPIs, which is what we call it as committed OKR. While most of the time, the OKRs are aspirational. So the clear difference between the two. So if as an example, if I have to again pick up an easy example, a committed OKR, I would need to expand to the German market, which means I just want a market expansion. So what I do is I just go and close 5 enterprise customers because that's what I want to do, because I know my average sales cycle, I need to bring it to 27 days, and I'm looking for a 15% increase perhaps in my Q1 revenue. If you do that, I meet my budgets, I meet my numbers, happy, I may earn my promotion. While the aspirational OKR in the same situation would be very different. I want to expand in the market and capture 50% market share. And for that, what will happen is I need 10 enterprise customers to switch to my product, which means I'm actually going after my competition. Rather than just looking at new customers, I'm going and breaking the competition. And that's my strategy. I achieve a sales cycle, which is much, much shorter. Instead of the normal 27 days, I'm actually saying I need to close my sales cycle in 15 days time, which means I then get a much better funnel. Maybe I put much more bigger argument. And I am looking for a 20% increase in the market share within Q1. And that's the difference between how a committed and an aspirational OKR can play around. So it's normal. It's always recommended when it comes to OKR to shoot for stretch objectives, because if consistently you are hitting those goals, which means somewhere down the line, you are not leveraging your full capabilities. Or when I say yours, it's about the organization, about the team. Maybe you're playing safe. Maybe you don't want to take a risk. Maybe we think, what if I fail? What if as an organization we fail? What will happen then? So is it very easy to write an OKR? Seems easy, but not so easy. We all, like we say, if you can write an OKR in 15 minutes, they are perhaps not good. You haven't challenged enough. You haven't challenged yourself enough when it comes to the objective, when it comes down to the aspiration. You need to think more. You really need to think and arrive at the correct KRs. Are they the ones going to help you achieve the objective which is there? If you can't write your objective in one line, we normally have this sometimes when we even write KPIs, sometimes we end up writing a paragraph, sometimes we write multiple lines. It's very simple. It needs to be crisp and clear, very concise, crisp, clear to communicate the objective in one line. Again, like I said earlier, it's the verb, it's more action oriented, it's more verb that you use. If you just say, I will launch a product, not good enough. I will launch the product, but what will it do? Will it bring me new customers? Will it give me some revenues? That needs to be written. And of course, like all KPIs and all sales forecasts, as we say, I'm going to close this deal by 31st of October, last day of the month. If all dates are of the last day of the month, perhaps there is a problem. You haven't thought through enough the rigor and the detailing. You can't achieve everything only on the last day of the month. So the interim timelines are also important, and not all initiatives will happen on the last day of the month. Measurable, of course, we know, and in just in case there are too many owners, then you have a problem. So what is an example, a good OKR and a bad OKR? Again, it's an example. If I need to increase my social media following by 3x by March, so very clearly, I'm saying, what's my intent? Intent is to increase social media by how much and by when? A bad KR example is I'll make videos for YouTube. I'll get more Instagram followers and I'll improve SEO. Each one of them is more intent. It doesn't lead to any action or outcome. However, if I have to generally say that I will generate 100,000 views on my YouTube channel, it is more actionable, it's outcome driven, because I know if I get those many views, I'm going to get some followers who are going to be regular followers. I'll get 10,000 new followers. And in order to get those 10,000, I'll do certain set of activities. That makes it very, very constructive, very, very focused. I will improve my or increase my organic search by 20%. There's a quantum. Improve SEO does not mean anything. It's English. by improving my organic search by 20% is actually an outcome, an action-oriented thing, which I'm committing to. So that's as an example of a good and a bad OKR. And finally, how do you track an OKR? So normally we would say an OKR needs to be tracked on a monthly basis, at least on a monthly basis, if not fortnightly. Let's say my objective was to be an equal opportunity and inclusive employer with a diverse workflow in a manufacturing unit. So for a particular manufacturing unit or across my manufacturing unit, I want to improve diversity as an example. Now there could be multiple steps here. So what I've put together as an example is, what are the different initiatives? So my initiative is very clearly, what does diversity means? What does inclusive employer mean? What are the pillars of success? So I need to have that policy. And who is my co-owner? Let's assume it's the HR head who owns this OKR, but who's the co-owner with me? It's actually the CEO. And then you see the progress I made and what's the percentage completion. If I completed it on time, when I delivered, it's 100%. There's a delay, you can still give me benefit. Maybe it's 90% or 95. I intended to improve diversity by hiring new people. So I hire women, engineers, and apprentices by a particular date, in which my manufacturing head partners me. He's the co-owner. And when he presents his OKR, it reflects in his OKR. I ensure my basic infrastructure is in place, whether it is the civil infrastructure, facilities, security, many of those things. It can be my maintenance head who partners me with that. Conduct sensitization workshop across the organization by a particular date, which covers 100% of the workforce. Maybe I did only 68%, and balance will get covered. So naturally, my coverage and my percentage completion is low. And I get an external expert to complete an organization audit to say, where are we? While this is my intention, I have some policies, I have some enablers, but what more? Maybe best practices. Again, that's the way you progress. Now, what happens at the end of the quarter? Let's say this is my scorecard at the end of the quarter for this particular OKR. I've done 90%. Will the OKR be abandoned? Not really. Now, what will happen is, at the beginning of the quarter, number one, I need to continue to ensure that these actions get completed at the end of the quarter as well. So it flows into next quarter, great, it will be there. At the same time, based on my organization initiative or strategic intent, I may have another OKR for my Q2. So in a way, I have a half complete or partially completed OKR from my previous quarter and a new OKR for the following quarter. And that's the way I would work and progress. I'm sure this would also be there, like with a KPI and an OKR we have heard. Similarly, we keep hearing balanced scorecard is supposed to be a strategy execution tool. So what is an OKR? Again, the difference, if you look at it, balanced scorecard is a much more comprehensive and holistic tool. It covers all the dimensions of the strategy, whether it's finance, customer, people, or internal processes, all the dimensions it covers, while OKR is focused on a particular strategic initiative. Typically, balanced scorecard, again, focuses on lag measures. It goes top down at the organization level, while again, we have seen as examples now, it cascades as well as goes sideways. So you have both covered horizontally as well as vertically. Again, it's annual versus quarterly, monthly reviews, not linked with appraisal, not linked with increments, many of those things. Also, the focus of balanced scorecard is more around accountability. It's also somewhere, if you look at it, maybe much more in terms of the number of initiatives and objectives versus an OKR, which is much, much lesser. So that's one of the big, but in a combination, if you were to use scorecard as well as OKR, it works wonderfully well. That's the way cascades happen along with like you have even for the scorecard. So typically, again, some examples of where you can go, and I've actually talked about a lot of them. So not going to repeat them, but just some quick tips. You want to start at an organization level, think for a quarter. Important is to build leadership buy-in, use a technology tool. It works extremely well. for monitoring, provided you are doing the organization-wide multiple roles and everything. Important again is CFR, what we say, conversation, feedback, recognition, key success factor. I know that there are some coaches, it can help you in actually even in coaching, when we do performance coaching, career coaching, to again help the individual focus a lot on immediate goals and how to doing it, going beyond the intent. So it brings a lot of clarity for the individual. And finally, while Sunny will talk more about it on the technology part, but clearly technology platform can provide an alignment, both in cascade as well as collaboration and monitoring. Over to you, Sunny, without taking much time now, to hand over to you and take it forward. And we'll be happy to take questions towards the end of the session.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, thank you, Vikas, Kanika, uExcelerate team to, setting this up, and special mention for Vikas for really covering the aspect of OKR and how important it is for everyone. And, as the group kind of mentioned, there is a mixed sort of audience who's sitting over here, somewhat very new, and someone at a very advanced stage, maybe using an OKR platform or somewhere kind of implementing that. I think the cover which Vikas has given in terms of the basic understanding is really helpful to the larger audience. If there are questions, feel free to put that in a Q&A section, and we'll take it from there. We do have a session towards the end as well. But let me take a moment to really cover, and then share the technology side of the OKR. So just so you all know, guys, I'm Sunny. I represent the Huminos, and Huminos is basically an OKR platform built for, I would say, businesses of all sizes across globe. We do have different features and everything in terms of what we covered in an OKR today. You will see that in the coming slides as well. I want to give a demo as well, as a beginning, and then towards the end, I'll also give you a free trial option to really access the tool. But let me just take a moment to share my screen and start presenting the OKR platform. So, guys, this is the login screen, and I'll just quickly log into my dummy account. But just so you all know, you can sign in through Microsoft Teams as well as Google official email ID as well, your Google Suite as well, and the moment you sign in, you have your 14 days of trial kind of open from there. So you don't need a separate coupon or separate access. All those things. What you need is just access to huminos.com, and over there you can really try the free version of it. Let me give you a basic understanding in terms of how the platform looks like, and if there are questions, we can deep dive to that as well. But before that, let me start with the admin side of the house. As a first thing, as a user, if you're logging to the platform, the very first thing you would need would be to see the admin side of the house, which is basically setting up the configuration and everything which you would need to do. It won't take more than, I would say, 5 minutes to really cover up the admin side of the house. And all these are like self-explanatory features. Some are like, if you really need a meeting feature, regular check-in, pulse, manage templates, coach, all those things could be toggle off or toggle on, right? And I'm just, as a default, I have kept everything open so that I can quickly cover that. Then the other section over here is more about the cycle, like we covered in the presentation as well. You can always set up, quarterly cycle over here and get started. There are different level of access as well: super admin, broadcast, IT, business, pulse, team, billing. It's all self-explanatory over here. The very first thing, and as an important element, is the user side of it. How can, as an admin, you add users to a larger audience in your organization? So for that matter, we have a user sync as well, which is basically you can either sync up your Google Workspace or Microsoft Directory if you're using one of that, and sync all your users over here. You can send in bulk upload as well, or share a, I would say, single user as well, wherein you can send an invite to the person whom you are inviting to use the product. So that's how simple it is. Yeah. So then this is all about Teams, wherein the moment you sign in up, you would be able to see your Teams hierarchy over here. The next comes is the KPI library. We have talked a lot about the difference between an OKR and KPI. These are some templates which are already over here. So while as a user you are creating OKR and then KPI, you can refer these KPIs as well, which would populate as a as a reference material to you. And as an admin, you can always again toggle off or on if needed as per your business. We have different departments in terms of KPIs as well: product marketing, sales, customer success, finance, and whatnot. You can in fact create your own KPI as well if you feel you want to add something more specific to your business. That's something you can do that as well. I'll quickly cover integrations. We are very well integrated with OneDrive, Google, ClickUp, Slack, Team. We have a native integration wherein all the nudges and updates kind of come through Slack and Team. You can use that for an integration as well. Campaign. This is one of the most important and I would say very interesting feature of the product. Because we have been talking a lot about OKR and in terms of its implementation and uses, but the very first thing comes after you really agree that yes, there is a need to an OKR implementation, is how to educate your audience, right? How to nurture them. So if you look at this feature, this really talks about different campaigns which you can roll out to your audience about common mistakes they should avoid while writing an OKR, crafting an OKR, best practices for one-on-ones. All those material is over here which you can really use to educate your audience. I would highly recommend using this and explore this feature. This is more about templates. Again, a lot of templates are over here. You can use them basis your business and all. Billing I won't cover on this call and everything. This comes with an free tool, free access as well with the limited accessibility and all. You can use that as well, but I'll cover that towards the end. Yeah, so admin would take, as I said, like just a couple of minutes to really set this up once, and this is a one-time exercise. So once you're done with it, you're all set. Your audience within the organization can see that we have an OKR implementation, and I'll just talk about a couple of more features over here as well. So Vikas kind of covered in terms of creating OKRs and all, right? So the first thing comes is how to create an OKR. So the moment you have an OKR in mind, you can really use this platform to create an OKR, talk about OKR as an objective which you really want to mention if it's an individual or a team or an organization level goal, assign an owner to a contributor if you feel that there is an additional contributor outside the owner. So for example, I can be an owner, but let's say Kanika could be a contributor to it as well. So I can assign Kanika as well along here. And then assign it to an OKR cycle. And within the OKR cycle as well, there could be a target date. So let's say if there is something for Q3, but I want to make sure that I complete that, in a shorter span within the OKR time frame, then that's feature is also there. Reasoning behind it, tag it department wise, revenue, sales, whatever, so that you can run some reportings around it. Link it with your parent goal. So if you have an let's say 95% performance, which is like an organizational goal, how you make sure to align your departmental and company, your individual goal aligned to the company goal is what matters a lot, right? So that alignment is important, and you can use this feature to align that, and then something like this would populate in front of you as an OKR, that let's say you have a major goal of attaining 95% high performance, right? Then how can you do that under that is kind of mentioned over here, and there could be different owners as well over here. I've just marked as an align, but different owners could come over there to support that company level goal. You can, if you really want to see the or update the progress, we kind of mentioned that at least once in a month you should come and talk about how the performance is going in regards to that OKR. You can come and update this platform saying, this is on track or at risk, not completed, postponed. You can mark the different matrices over here. put initiatives which are kind of good to know, and then if at all there are blockers, you would like to highlight them as well. Add attachments in terms of OneDrive and Google Drive to support, and then that's it, right? So the moment you update it, your OKR would kind of get updated over here, and then it kind of linked up in terms of your company OKR as well. Yeah, there are different level of reportings as well. I can see how my executive team is doing in terms of the current OKRs, what is their performance and everything. One thing is, as an OKR concept, you would agree is that the visibility is more, very much required. So if you really want an OKR to be implemented at an org level, the visibility should be accessed to, everyone in the company, I would say. However, from the feature point of view, we do have, restrictions wherein we can enable, disable the public OKRs and make some private OKRs as well. But it is always recommended that we, make the OKRs public so that everyone in the organization knows what we are aiming as a common goal, right? Yeah, so this is basically more about how you can look at product management side of the house and all that stuff. So then alongside, there are different features as well, within the OKRs. If you want to talk about a KRA, highlight and put in KRA in terms of like, Vikas kind of differentiated between OKRs and KRAs. This is important, right? So you can put a KRA over here, put that into a metrics wherein it could be, because like we discussed, right? KRA needs to be defined. It cannot be, generic in nature. Like, for example, I want to do search engine optimization. That's one way of calling it a vague KRA. But when it comes to defined KRA, then that's all about a percentage of achievement rate, right? So, and that could be like in terms of enhance as well, or maybe reducing a cost as well, or maybe, achieving a milestone, or to that matter, completion of tasks. So you have a different metrics over here to really judge upon and kind of mention that. Define owners, contributor, dates, and mostly we have seen that, people tend to confuse between OKRs, KRAs, and task. So there has been a highly, high concern, which we have seen that during the adoption level, we would notice that people would start putting daily tasks under KRAs and OKRs, right? That's not the actual intent is. So as a learning, we have recently launched a feature as well, which is basically add task. So over here, if you want to put your task on a daily basis, what you're doing, you can put that over here in this section, linked to that KRA, so that you keep the KRAs and OKRs very clean and what it matters a lot, right? Than your generic or day-to-day tasks. So that's basically an additional feature which we have recently launched from that point. I'll not cover much about meetings and feedback. These are like one-on-one meeting feedbacks wherein you can do meetings as well, send feedbacks, reviews, or do pulse as well. This is good for HR or business owners, or I would say wherein if they want to do any sort of an pulse feedback, this comes along with the product as a feature from our side. Since today we are covering a lot of only about OKRs, I'll just stick more towards OKR at this point. Then there is a dashboard which is more about insights. As an admin or as a business owner, you can also see how the company is really at an adoption level, what is the current level of adoption, how people are really working on their OKRs in terms of number of OKRs, objectives created or completed, not started, at track, and on track, at risk, and all that stuff. The OKR confidence level, behind the schedule, and all that. These things could come over here. There are different level of reporting which could come. And somewhere, if I'm not wrong, I can also do an reporting in terms of the committed and the aspirational OKR as well, right? So again, because I kind of really covered that well, what is a committed OKR and how it is different to an aspirational one, right? So we do have that feature somewhere because there have been a lot of new features which has come in, but you can always look at how, so how we are doing in terms of committed as well as aspirational OKR. So if I'm achieving my committed, that this comes in over here. If I'm at an aspirational, then this comes in over here. That's like an a dashboard sort of an thing for reporting purposes, what I would say. So that's pretty much then towards the end, I'll just quickly talk about this home section, which is about the feed. It's called in social feed over here. Anything you do on a platform, it's kind of been notified among Slack and Teams as well. If you have a native integration, if you have open up the integration or activated the integration from our platform. And then also, over here as well on the platform, you would see how, people are doing or updating their progress or making the updates on the OKR. That kind of comes as an feed or as a nudge over here in the home section as well. And yeah, so that's kind of in brief about the product, which would help you relate to what Vikas kind of talked about and how can we really implement that in a technology space. There are multiple ways you can do it. You can start from a spreadsheet as well, move to a product gradually, but we have made it very simple for people who really want to start it with a spreadsheet as well, because as a product, we have different options available, wherein we have our free forever plans as well, which is basically set up for all, I would say small and businesses as well, wherein you can just sign that up and use this platform as long as you want. This comes with free credit of 500 objectives every quarter, and data visibility it's limited. But yes, if you really want to upgrade, then if you upgrade, then this is the first outcome-based pricing model which we have created in the HR tech space from an OKR, wherein you only pay for creating an OKR and when you're achieving an OKR. So it's kind of linked to your success, right? So if you're creating an OKR, that's when you are charged. And if you're able to achieve your OKR, we believe that's when we respect to ask for money from you. Other than that, if let's say if you're not able to achieve your goal, postponed or delayed or not achieved or something like that, system is not going to be charging you at all for that. That's like a unique in itself, which is called an outcome-based pricing. We don't restrict you like other players in the industry who would come with number of users pricing or number of features pricing. We allow everyone to use the pricing, and on the pricing section, you can really use the calculator to estimate your pricing as well, and reach out to me if you need anything. I can really talk about that, or the team at uExcelerate will have that discussion too. But this is pretty much, and I'm gonna now stop sharing my screen, open the floor for questions if at all there are. Yeah, Kanika, over to
Thank
you
you so
back.
much, Sunny. Thank you so much, Vikas. I would now ask the audience to share their questions. If they have any, they can post it in the chat box. And we have one question from Bandha Kumar, who's asking, how does OKR adjust to churn in the organization or practices such as job rotation? So Vikas, can you answer this question?
Sure. Yeah, I think a very relevant and a very practical question, which is, so typically, like in case of KPIs and in case of strategy, whenever there is a change of a person who is holding the responsibility, he or she inherits the OKR which is in progress, because those are aligned to the organization initiative. So just because a new individual has changed, it would not mean that the initiative is no longer important for the organization. So the OKR continues, and that perhaps is the beauty, because it continues for that quarter. So whatever is the remaining period in that quarter, you still have an opportunity on a monthly review basis to reset the goals if they are relevant, if something has dramatically changed. So that's what it would be. I also see another question, which is, does the normal KPI do not have measurements? No, definitely not. That's not what we mean. KPIs do have measurements. They are also supposed to be smart. Like the KRs are also supposed to be smart. The only difference is, if you were to equate KPI with the objective in the OKR, the KRs in the OKR are the enablers. They communicate on how to achieve those objectives, while the KPI are only focused on what I want to achieve. The how to is missing. So that's the additional thing which comes in the OKR, where you also have the goals are the same, could be stretched, could be aspirational or committed, but the KRs are smarter. The initiatives are also smarter.
So we also have one last poll. If we can have that poll, and please do participate and let us know your views on it. we would want to know how likely are you to use or implement OKR. So we have Padma Kumar sir saying excellent explanation from Vikas, and the tool walkthrough by Sunny. Okay, I
Thank you.
guess we have.
Thanks, Padma.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we have the results for the poll also. So I'll quickly share.
Okay, seems exciting, worth piloting. So great. So part objective done, at least with the concept, at least we've understood the
Yeah.
concept and worth trying. Yes, it's a no risk tool.
All right, now it's almost 4 and we'll conclude the session. Thank you so much, Vikas. Thank you so much, Sunny, for joining us, taking out time from your busy schedule and joining our platform to share your insights on what OKR is. And I'm sure the audience had valuable takeaways to take back from this session. And I'm sure they'll make use of Humanist at the max and they'll explore the platform. So thank you so much, audience. Thank you for being there. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kanika. Thank you.